Housing. Well, for the longest time, you have been hearing people talking about how the price of housing have raised, go from Australia, Canada, UK, US, Germany, name it, any country you think of. Housing is raising, and it's raising so high to an extent that people are unable to afford. You find that family are being pushed out to sleep to the street just because they cannot afford a housing. So that one make you think, and it made me think that if I can go to these cities of this country, well, I'll be sure of to find some housing which are lying allowed without anyone to rent. You find housing which has been empty for like a year without any tenant. Well, that's not the reality, because the reality it is housing, and I mean housing, it's becoming difficult to get it. Why? Housing are being constructed, but they are not being constructed at the same rate as the people who need them. So you find that first of all there is low supply of housing and high demand of housing. By doing that, you find that they have already created a loop for people to get for them to sell housing at high rate. Because if I want to buy a house, first of all I have to succumb to go and invest more to buy a house. Second off, and there is two group of people who always are in the market to buy a house, or who are always in the market looking for a house. And these are the people who are making housing more and more expensive. You see, every time you wake up and look or go and listen to your local TV, what you keep hearing is, real estate is the bubble, it will burst, it will burst, it will collapse. And yet, every single day you look around your place or your city, the housing are going up, the price of housing is going up, and this bubble, you keep hearing it will burst, doesn't burst. Yes, the reality is it will burst. One of these days it will burst. But it's not that close, or it will not be tomorrow or any or next year but one. No. It will take long for the housing market to slow down or even to just collapse, because housing is a basic thing. Housing is a basic need. Everyone need a house, but instead of it as treating housing as a basic need, we did start treating housing as a commodity, housing as an asset. These days, why do people buy a house? Is a form of generating your wealth. If you want to maintain your wealth from one generation to another, the only way you can be able to maintain your wealth is through housing. And that's why you find majority of people buy housing, not because they need them. It's for speculation, for for growing their wealth. Well, it makes sense, because society have accepted that housing is a form of asset. So it doesn't matter in whichever economy you are. The only thing the housing can do is slow down or lose maybe 10%. But if you put your money in a bank, it can lose value for even to become worthless within a single day, or even you can be denied a chance to get your money, but the housing is yours. And there is these two group of people who make housing worse and worse and worse, are first time buyer and old people who already own housing. But this first time buyer, I'm not talking about a person who live in a certain city and decide to buy. No, we are talking about someone who have moved from one place to another. Let's take, for example, someone who live in US. You have been working in California for the rest of your life, but since the housing in California is very expensive, you cannot afford. You didn't buy a house there. So what do? Maybe by good luck, you get transferred to Texas. In Texas, you can even buy a house with $300,000, but in California, the minimum you could bought it was $1 million. What happened? Maybe you had already saved or maybe you had already bought a house in California with a mortgage. So when you sell your house in California, you are and then you pay your mortgage, you find that you are remaining with around 500,000 US dollar. So when you move to Texas, what do? You buy, and you'll be able to afford to buy a house here. It doesn't matter whether they would be saying it's expensive, but since where you have come it was more expensive than where you have gone now, it will be easier for you to buy a house in. You find that as you move to this Texas or this new city, you buy a house which is trading at a high price, but the local and people who live in that place, they will be complaining, saying that how housing is expensive, it's unaffordable, we cannot be able to afford. And by doing that, you find that you'll be the problem. You'll be among the people who will be contributing so hard on this housing crisis. The second group is the old people. You see, these people who bought houses in 1950s, 1960s, when housing was so cheap, when people at that time treated housing as a basic need and not a commodity, not as an asset. Those people, they have a house which maybe that guy bought a house at 50,000 or even 100,000. Actually, most of them bought housing at 50,000 or 30,000 USD. Right now, that house which they have been sitting in for like 30 or 40 years, now if they decide to sell that house, they can cash in over $1 million plus. This is another group of people, because now they have retired, they are not working, they want to move to maybe another city, maybe somewhere they can have a lot of heat, where a city which have a very favorable climate. So what do? They sell their housing, and since they have a lot of money, they don't care whether housing is high. They go and buy house where they go. And this is a challenge as one city in the world. Let's say one city in the world, which is Mexico City. Mexico City is facing that challenge because people from United States, they make money in dollars. Then when they retire, maybe you are working in as a military guy or something like that, so you have cashed in a good amount of money and you have pension coming through. They go to Mexico City, they rent there. So what happened? Developers are building housing with one intention and knowing very well that this house will not lack they will not lack tenant, because there is these people who are coming from US. They have money, they have everything. All they are looking for is something which is a bit lower than United States. By doing so, they drive the Mexico City rate at a very high. And local people, they have not earned a lot of money. Okay, local people have not seen any increase or in their salary for the last maybe 5 or 10 years, and even if they have an increase, it's not that much to compete with the foreigners. But there is one country in the world, which is Austria in Europe. I'm not saying Australia, I'm saying about Austria, which is neighboring Germany. They have managed to be able to control housing, because Austrian government came to realize that until we stop treating housing as a asset, that is the only way we'll be able to control the rate of housing. By doing that, they started constructing housing right, left, and center. It doesn't matter whether you want to construct your private house, but if the government of that land construct more houses, by default, the housing will go low, because there is no any way you can be charging people 10,000 US dollar, and the people who have the other houses which are surrounding your place are asking people to pay for maybe $6,000 or $5,000. By doing that, Vienna, Austria, have managed to control rate of housing. Actually, in Austria, there is more land controlled housing than private owned housing. And since people of that country have realized that this is a place where I can all I need is to be able to stay in, it's not a place where I'll be saving my money in, then it becoming easier for the government to control it. I wish the whole of the world and the rest of the world can take that concept, because we can be able to eliminate homelessness. It's something I have never experienced, and I'll never experience, because first of all, you lose your dignity, your life, everything. You start living like an animal. If you are a homeless person, you have nothing and you are nothing, and people don't treat you like a human being. You are even worse than a dog. But we can be able to save it, and we can be able to treat these people. You see, the issue is this: you are only one step ahead from being a homeless person. The only thing preventing you from being a homeless is just because you have salary you are earning. If today you lose your job, or maybe you have some hospital bill, you have some high hospital bill, automatically you'll not be able to pay the housing or mortgage. What happened? You lose your house and become homeless. So that guy or that woman you see along the road, and you just treat them and look at them, they are like kind of a trash. Remember this: one day they were just like you. They had a good house, a good family, but something bad happened to them, and right now they are in the street, just sleeping out in the street like animals. But maybe one day our governments will decide to change things, and the humanity will change and start treating housing as a basic need and not as a commodity. Thank you. And I hope we can share this message. Let's reach to more and more people, so that we can push our government to make more and better rules, so that we can be able to save ourselves. Thank you.